Dear student, this is the paper of the comparative government politics, and in this paper today I am going to discuss about the types of comparative politics. That means how we can classify the different category of the comparative politics, and this is the also one of the important units of this paper. Now come to the comparative politics that we count as encompasses various approaches and types of analysis to understand political systems and phenomena. Here are some different types of the comparative politics. One of the important types that is called the country study. That means when we're talking about the comparative politics, that is a country within the country, and within the country that is called the single country study. And in the single country study of the comparative politics focus on in-depth analysis of a single country political systems, institutions, and process. This type often involves detailed case study of a particular country to understand its unique political dynamics. That means when we're talking about the types of comparative politics and within the country a specific single country a study, that is within the nation or state, and that is country political system, institutions, and process. This type often involves detailed case study of a particular country to understand its unique political dynamics. Second category of country study, comparative politics, that is comparative case study. That means involve comparing a few selected country to highlight similarity and difference in political system, institutions, and outcomes. This approach allow for more focused comparison than large uh, kind of the nation study. And this is the two important parts of the country study, one within the country, and second that is comparative case study involves comparing a few selected country, and that highlight different kind of the political system, institutions, and their kind of the outcomes of all the things. Then come to the next type, that is called the systematic comparisons. That means when we talking about the systematic comparison, there is also a cross-national comparison. That means there is multiple nations, yeah, multiple states examining multiple nations country to identify patterns, similarity, and difference across different political system. This can involve comparing democratic versus authoritarian regimes or analyzing how different electoral system affect political outcomes. This is very important types of the comparative politics. Next to the systematic comparison, that is historical compare. That means when we're talking about the historical comparison, look at how political system have evolved over the time by comparing historical period within the country or across the multiple country. Here, that's its name indicate historical compares. That means we have the different kind of the system. Suppose we have like the in Indian nation or state. During the British colonial system, there was a different kind of the political systems. But after independence, there was different kind of the political systems and democratic set of the governance. But at the times, most of the economic structures, that was the mixed economy. But right now have different kind of the economic structure. So that means in the historical period or within the period of a times within the state, there may be different kind of the economic, political, and social changes. So these are we can consider into the historical compare. And when we're talking about the cross-national comparisons, examining multiple country to identify patterns, similarity, and difference across different political systems. This can involve comparing democratic and authoritarian regimes, analyzing how different electoral systems affect political outcomes. Here I am going to democratics versus authoritarians. Democratics, that is there is some kind of the rule of law, there is some kind of the self-rule system of governance. An authoritarian type of the government, that is there is some kind of a dictatorship. So this is the second important types of the comparative politics, that is systematic comparisons. Next, that is institutional analysis. When we're talking about the institutional analysis, that is types of comparative politics. Comparative institutional analysis focused on comparing political institutions such as legislature, executive, and judiciary to understand how they shape governance and policy outcomes. These types often explore institutional designs, functionality, and performance. That means key in the types of the comparative politics. Another category of institutional analysis that is comparative institutional analysis that is focused on comparing political institutions such as legislatures, executive, and judiciary to understand how they shape governance and policy outcomes. This type often explore institutional designs and functionality and performance. Suppose we have the different cross-national comparative politics and we want to study the legislative functions of the both more than two country. We can also study the executive functions of the both more than two country, or we can study also the judiciary functions, their structures, their role. So these will all cover into the comparative institutional analysis, and this is a very important types of the comparative politics. Next is new institutionalism. Investigate how institutions develop and change over the time, focusing on the role of institutions in shaping political behaviors and outcomes. When we're talking about the new institutionalism, that means in addition to legislature, executive, and judiciary, there are so many different institutions who are emerging and they are required according to needs of the hours. Suppose there is civil society, social actors, regional institutions, international institutions. These institutions may be covered into these kind of the institutionalism, and when we study their role, their functions, their outcomes, that will cover in the new institutionalism perspectives of comparative politics. Then come to the behavior analysis types of the comparative politics. That is political behavior. Study the behaviors of individuals and groups within the within the different political system, including voting patterns, political participations, and public opinion. This approach often uses survey and experimental methods. That means when we're talking about the political behavior, that means how citizens are behaving towards the states and how statements are behaving towards the masses. There is some kind of the active citizenship. That means key people who are actively involved in electoral politics. They are active in the some kind of the decision makings in the pressure groups. They are pressurizing some types of the interest groups. Same like in the through the from the state side, how they are communicating with the state people, how they are giving the outcomes, have any kind of the fruitful results or substantial result. So these are covered into the political behaviors. Now come to the political culture. Political culture examine the belief, value, attitude of people within the different political system to understand how these factors influence political behavior and institutions. That means when we're talking about the political culture, examining the beliefs, values, and all the things within the different political system to understand how these factors influence and political behavior and institutions. So these are the important types of the we call it a kind of the political culture. Next types of the comparative politics, that is called comparative political economy. When we're talking about the comparative political economy, analysis the relationship between the political systems and economic policy. This approach looks at how political decisions affect economic performance and vice versa, often focusing on the topics like development, trade, and welfare policy. That means when we're talking about the comparative political economic analysis, the relationship between political systems and economic policy, this approach looks at how political decisions are affected economic performance and vice versa, often focusing on the topics like development, trade, and welfare policy. That means a state have at the different period or different kind of the situations they adopting the different developmental models. Sometimes they state are giving the focus on the infrastructures model. Sometimes they focus on the human developments. Sometimes they are focused on the developments and arms and ammunitions. So these are the different comparative political economy, and this is very important aspects related to the trade, welfare, and education. So state are giving their allocations of the fund in different sectors. Some states are giving to importance to the education, health. Some states are giving to importance to the army. Some states are giving to importance to their infrastructures. So these are very important concepts of the comparative political economy, and there is a different kind of the parameters for their comparisons. Next is development study. That is investigate how different political systems influence uh, economic developments and social progress, comparing how various address issue like poverty, inequality, and growth. That means when we're talking about the developmental study, they have the different political systems. Some where the democratic setup, some where maybe authoritarian system, some where maybe the military system of governments, and their social progress comparing how various countries address issue like poverty, inequality, and growth. That means we have the different kind of the issues like the poverty, environmental issue, inequality, wealth, distributions of wealth in unequal manners, and these are covered into the comparative politics types that will cover under the developmental politics. Now come to the conflicts, and that is called the uh, comparative conflict analysis, and these issues are come under the conflict and security study. A state the cause dynamics and resolutions of political conflicts such as civil war, revolutions, and ethnic conflict. This approach often compares conflict situations across different country. That means we have the facing the different kind of the conflicts like the civil war, revolutions, and ethnic conflict. This approach often can compare conflict situations across the different country. In these types of the comparative politics, a state or society have always some kind of the scarcity of the resources. There may be some kind of the clash of civilizations. There may be sometimes clash of the idea. There may be sometimes the clash of religions and all the things. So through these kind of the different kind of the ideology, scarcity of resources, there is kind of the climate change, and these are very important impact factor on that leads toward the civil war, revolutions, and ethnic conflict. And this approach often compares conflicts across different country. This is very important approach. Then come to the security study. That means given we study the focus on the nationals and international security issue, including the role of different political system in shaping security policy and response to the threats. When we're talking about the security, that means facing there is two types of the security. One important security that is internal security. Second security that is at the borders level. That means at the border levels, there that kind of the war, there is conflict with the another states. But internal security have some kind of the issue that is for the maintenance of law and orders. They are providing some kind of the security. And today we have after the Second World Wars, or be called that is the end of the Cold War. There is some kind of the new kind of the security that is called the human security. That means in human security, most of the security concerns with the respect of the humans. But a state security or national security that is concerned with the border managements, and the national security and state security, that means those persons who are like the bureaucrats, who are the military men, who are the statesmen, they are feel more secure, and that means there is in the human security people who have facing some kind of the food insecurity, environmental insecurity, human right violations, So that means that those states who are considered human security is very important part of the state, they giving the importance to these kind of the parameters like economic security, health security, environment security, community security, cultural security, and so on, so on. So this is very important aspects of these kind of the security. Now come to the next types of the comparative politics, that is governance and public policy. When we're talking about the governance, governance basically is a broader terms, and that means that there is also participations of legitimate authority. That means that there are chances of the contributions of the corporate groups. There may be chances of contributions of the non-state actors like the civil society, voluntary associations, and that are all stakeholders. So this is called the governance. And in the public policy that means कि, when a states or government formulating public policy for a particular issue, yeah, for the provide some kind of the solutions for the issue like the environmental issue, social issue, political issue. So that is called the public policy. That is called the public policy. And public policy analysis comparing how different country develops and implement public policy in issues like the healthcare, educations, and environment protections. These, these types often evaluate policy outcomes and effectiveness. Next to the global and regional perspectives. Uh, when we're talking about the types of the comparative politics, that is global and regional perspectives. Global comparative politics investigate how global trends and international organizations influence national politics. These include examining the impact of globalization's international norms and transnational issues. That means in the era of the globalizations, we are living in the era of the ICT era, and we are integrated in the social sector, economic sector, and political sectors. That means that we are all interdependent with each others, and we have also some kind of the common issue like the climate change, like the terrorisms, like the scarcity of foods, like the some kind of the international transportations issue. So these, and there is some kind of the migrations issue, refugee issue. So these are the global challenges uh, before the us, and we try to investigate how global trends and international organizations that influence national politics. These include examining the impacts of globalizations, international norms, and transnational issue. That is very important parts of the types of the comparative politics. Like we have the important challenges today, violations of the human rights. Today we are facing the challenges like the refugee issue. That means given persons who are somehow they are due to some kind of the fear of persecutions who migrate to neighbor country, another country. That is called the refugee. And refugee have no any kind of the political rights. They are not giving to any kind of the political right to the other nations where they are seeking asylums. So this is very important challenges, and these types of the issue are day-to-day life coming, and we are studying in the types of the comparative politics that in the global issue. We are also facing the transnational issue, corporate issue, migrations also, and one of the important challenge before us, that is climate challenge, or maybe we call the environmental issue. And due to changing in the environments, due to industrializations, and due to somehow exploitations of the natural resources, we are facing our climate have increasing temperatures day by day, and these have some kind of the negative impacts on the agriculture, health, environment, and food security also. And this kind of the challenges that it leads to but the some kind of the civil wars, migrations, and all the things. Then come to the global issue that is called the regional study. Focus on a specific regions like Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia to understand regional political economic dynamics, common challenges, and unique characteristics. That means ki in addition to the global perspectives, we have global perspectives, we have the regional study like the SARC, South Asian Associations for Regional Cooperations, ASEAN, associations for Southeast Asian nations, African Union, SAFTA, African Unions, European Union, and these area study, yeah, we call the regionals area. They are also focused on some kind of the common issue, and these issue is also covered under the comparative governments and politics. Then come to the next part, uh, that is that is called the identity and social movements in the comparative politics. That means ki when we're talking about the identity politics, a study how political identity such as ethnicity, religions, and genders influence political behaviors and policy. This approach often examines how social movements and identity based groups impact politics. That means ki we have, especially in the era of the comparative politics, we are not a stick only to the institutions, political institutions, but also we cover the different kind of the identity, such as ethnicity, religions, gender, that may be influence political behavior and policy. This approach often examine how social movement identity-based groups are impact politics. And another kind of the comparative politics, that is social movement analysis. That means ki when we're talking about the social movement analysis, look at the role and impact of social movement in different political systems, analyzing how they mobilize, support, influence policy, and bringing about social change. That means ki we are also covering the social different kind of the movements and looks at the role and impact of social movements in different political systems and analyzing how they mobilize, support, influence policy, and bring about the social change. So that means ki these types of the comparative politics that are also covered through the social movement. Each types of comparative politics often inquire insight into the how political systems operates and interact, helping scholars and policymakers understand complex political phenomena and address global challenge. That is very important. That means ki when we talking about these things, here I am talking about the types of the comparative politics. That means that comparative politics is not only talking about the uh, institutional comparisons, but also cover the behavior comparisons, but also cover the global perspectives, also cover the regional area, also cover the identity politics, and also cover the sometimes social movement. So this is very broader concepts of the types of the comparative politics. So today I am going to the bind ups of the these lectures that I have covered the whole different category of the comparative politics. That is from the institutionals to behaviors to globals to regionals to identity and social movements. Okay, thank you.